All right, everyone. Trump is weighing in once again on Brexit. Now, he tried to do this, what was it, a year or a year and a half ago or something like that, and admonished Theresa May that she shouldn't make the mistake of going in soft. She should go in with a hard ask and then back down from that in order to achieve a deal that would have to strike a delicate balance between being shitty enough for the UK for the EU to accept it and not shitty enough so that the Parliament of the UK would reject it. Unfortunately, what she did is ignore Trump's good advice. So now Trump is giving the UK more advice and saying two things. Firstly, you shouldn't pay the Brexit divorce bill, which is like, 50 billion euros or some crazy amount, that they shouldn't do that. Now, it's not entirely clear that they can avoid doing so. If you sign on to an agreement with other countries, binding one, part of that stipulates that if you leave, you have to pay money. You might end up having to pay the money. You can always, again, do a hard sell and say, no, I'm not paying it at all, and then hope that they say, okay, no, you don't have to pay the whole total, but pay like part of it or something like that, or do it in installments or something. Make it gentler. It's possible to get some sort of concession, but Theresa May, of course, is not the person to do that. Thus, Trump is also suggesting, hey, why don't you have Nigel Farage do the Brexit negotiations? He knows what he's doing, and he's hoping to meet with him, by the way, when he goes to the UK. They might prevent him from doing so. I think they did that before. They kept him from talking with Farage. But now he's got less of a cloud over his head because the Mueller thing's over. There's no obstruction, no collusion or anything. So Nigel Farage, I think, can mill around with Trump's people as much as he wants. Yes, Farage should be the one negotiating, or at the very least someone that Farage is comfortable with, because he seems to be the most sane man in British politics. It's surreal seeing people declare him to be like an evil sexist, homophobic, racist and stuff. I'm thinking to myself, he has never actually said anything along any of those lines to any reasonable degree of interpretation. He's never said anything that strikes me as being even racially tinged. If anything, he did alienate some of the further out there, I think, members of UKIP at the time, because he said, I want more immigration, I just want it from the Commonwealth states. Well, you do realize that means, non-white. You do realize that how's that racist? I want more people from India and Pakistan in the country. Yes, I'm a horrible, bigoted Nazi, says Farage in a moment of glee when he's had one too many ales. It's hilarious. But Farage does know what he's doing. Look, he pretty much was the voice in the wilderness for years on Brexit. When almost nobody was talking about it, he started talking about it back when support for the EU was very, very high. And he started talking about it, and he was considered like a pariah. It's like, what's this crazy dude talking about? The EU's great, free movement, and all this bullshit. And then all of a sudden things started getting bad, and he's like, I told you so, because he predicted all of this shit like a decade before. And then all of a sudden it becomes more and more popular. So first, he's the main architect of what became Brexit. Now, because his own party has a shift, he didn't agree with it, he leaves that. Brexit sort of falls through as far as Theresa May's bullshit goes. Then he says, okay, well, I guess I'll have to take the reins again. Hey, now we've got the UKIP, the Brexit party. And then he all of a sudden wins the European elections there. They might end up doing very well in the general elections. It's nowhere to go but up. Because it looks like there's been, again, as I said, a systemic collapse of so-called centrist movements within the party. They blame the Conservatives and Labour because they're considered centrist, some members do or do not support the idea of Brexit, and so they were all punished. So everyone either joined the Brexit party or they stomped over to the Liberal Democrats or the Greens, the further left dedicated anti-Brexit movements. Very, very strange indeed. By the way, that's a good thing for the UK. This will bring about needed reform. Yes, this is undergoing a political paradigm shift there, and Trump is absolutely correct. Theresa May should have listened to him, but the thing is, she was either too ignorant to engineer a proper deal, or more likely, she never wanted a proper deal because she was a Remainer. When you take somebody who has fought consistently against something and put them in charge of running it, they're going to run it into the ground. It's like, let's say, I fight against socialism. Let's say that a socialist organization were to put me in for some odd reason as their PR manager. What am I going to do? I'm going to take their social media and troll people, and I'm going to do crazy shit, and I'm going to make them look like nuts. Because I'd find it funny, number one, and because I oppose their ideology. That's basically what Theresa May has done with Brexit. Her whole goal was to make the deal so unpalatable that the Parliament would continuously reject it in hopes that the people would rise up and say enough is enough, we don't want a Brexit anymore, give us a second referendum. Instead, the plan appears to have backfired, and actually people want the Brexit more than ever, and so now there will be a hard Brexit, and then the next step, the final step for the globalists in their evil plot to enslave the English. Because, we can't have those once great empire ever rise again from the ashes. So we've got to make sure that we keep them down. It's basically what it amounts to. We got to make sure that our multinational money keeps flowing. That might create problems because they might form a trade union or some shit. They might become syndicalists. Oh my God. Basically, the final step is to make things unpalatable once there is a Brexit, like collapse the economy. And the multinationals do have the force to do it. I guarantee that they'll put the UK in a recession. They'll engineer things, they'll tinker around, they'll cut some jobs, they'll make things look worse than they are. They'll blame every problem under the sun on Brexit. Every possible negative marker that happens over the subsequent couple of years will be blamed entirely on Brexit, even if it has nothing to do demonstrably and objectively with the same. But if Nigel Farage gets in there and hardlines the EU, and it's made clear to the EU that the people of the UK are not going to bend over and become vassals, now they're not going to be subjugated to the EU without even having a vote, number one. They're not going to dick around with trade deals that they can't possibly swallow and will fuck the economy, number two. Maybe you can get some concessions and have a common sense Brexit. It's very funny because Nigel Farage, I think, was seen as a chucklehead for a while. He was seen basically as a goofy dude and not really taken seriously. And so the first thing that he said, to the EU's assembly there when Brexit did happen, it's like, "Good morning, you're not laughing now, are you?" And it's like very funny, and I really relish that particular clip. By the way, harder to find now. It's funny because a lot of things on politics are getting memory hold on YouTube. Like literally, even if you search for the exact title, you have to dig through 10 pages of stuff to find it sometimes. Really, really strange how that's happening. Very, very funny how that antitrust suit was announced against Google, and then within 24 hours, Google Cloud goes down. That was a mystery. That's about all. Peace out.